Hey, my friend. Tonight, I want to tell you a story. A story of rain, of silence, and of a man who lived through the sound of a single violin. A story that rises from the fog where dreams and memories blur together. So take a breath, stay quiet, and come with me to the place where the first note was played on a bridge soaked in rain. The night was breathing, not in a poetic way, but in that heavy, tired rhythm cities have after midnight. A cold wind slipped through the half-open window, carrying with it the smell of rain and rust. Samuel sat on the edge of a narrow iron bed. His fingers held a cigarette that had long gone out. He didn't notice, or maybe he didn't care. The room around him looked like it had given up years ago. Paint peeling off, stains spreading like old memories, and a single bulb flickering in the corner. On the small table beside him, a half-empty bottle, an ashtray, and a violin case. That violin, the only thing in the room that wasn't broken. He looked at it for a long moment. The old leather case was covered with scratches, but it still had that strange dignity, like an old soldier who had seen too much, but still stood tall. Samuel reached out, ran his hand along its edge, and whispered, "You're still here, huh?" His voice cracked. He hadn't spoken all day. The rain outside began to fall harder, tapping against the glass. Each drop made a faint sound like someone gently knocking. He used to love that sound once. Now it only reminded him how long the nights could be. He lit a new cigarette. The first drag hit his lungs like a small explosion. He coughed, laughed softly, then leaned back against the cold wall. From somewhere far below the distant hum of cars, the echo of a horn, the splash of tires on wet asphalt. The city was alive, but he was outside of it, a ghost moving between its forgotten corners. Samuel had once been a musician, not a famous one, not even close. He used to play in cafes, small bars, even weddings when money was short. Back then, he had people around him. Laughter, music, and her, Ellen. Just thinking her name hurt a little. Her laughter was the kind that stayed in a room even after she left. Her voice, light and warm, used to wrap around his songs like sunlight through old curtains. But that was another life, before the bottles, before the streets, before he started playing only for himself. He reached for the violin case and opened it slowly. Inside, the wood gleamed faintly under the yellow light, worn but beautiful. He lifted it gently, almost afraid it might fall apart. The bow was frayed, the strings were dull, but as soon as he placed it under his chin, something inside him woke up. He played one note, then another. The sound was rough, uneven, but alive. It filled the empty room like smoke. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. Rain hit the window harder now, in rhythm with his bow. Shallow, and somewhere between the notes and the storm, Samuel disappeared into the past. He remembered the first night he ever played on the bridge. It was summer. The city was alive. People laughing, lights flickering, cars streaming by. He was younger then, his shirt clean, his hair not yet gray. He had no audience, just the sound of the river below and the glow of yellow lamps above. But when he played, something magical happened. The city, noisy, careless, seemed to pause. The melody was soft, uncertain at first, but soon it grew confident. The air itself seemed to lean closer to listen. When he finished, a child clapped. A woman smiled. And Samuel, for the first time in years, had felt seen. That night, he went home, lighter, hopeful, as if the world still had a place for him. He smiled at the memory now bitterly. How long ago was that? 10 years? Maybe more. He put the violin down and rubbed his face. His reflection in the cracked mirror looked like a stranger eyes, sunken, cheeks hollow, hair wild. "You look like hell," he muttered. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since morning. He reached for a crust of bread on the table, sniffed it, shrugged, and took a bite. It was stale, but it didn't matter. A siren wailed somewhere far away. For a moment, Samuel closed his eyes and let the sound blend with the storm. He imagined it wasn't a siren, but applause. He imagined he was back on stage under soft lights, Ellen beside him smiling. He could almost hear her voice again. "Sam, stop frowning when you play. Music should breathe, like you." He laughed softly, then whispered, "Yeah, like me." The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Each second seemed heavier than the last. The night stretched endlessly, like it always did. Then suddenly, a knock. He froze. It wasn't the rain. It was sharp. Real. He turned his head slowly toward the door. Knock, knock. Who the hell? Another knock. He stood, hesitated, then walked across the creaking floor. When he opened the door, cold air rushed in, bringing the smell of rain and the sound of the city. No one was there. Only a small envelope lay on the ground. No name, no address. Just a faint watermark on the paper, a drawing of a bridge. He picked it up, confused. Back inside, he tore it open carefully. Inside was a folded note written in elegant handwriting. "Tomorrow, midnight, the bridge. Come play again." Samuel frowned. No signature, no clue who had sent it. He looked at the violin, then back at the note. For a long time he said nothing. Finally he whispered, "Is this some kind of joke?" But a part of him, the part that still remembered hope, felt something stir. A strange warmth, almost like excitement. He tried to shake it off. Probably a prank. Nobody cared where he went, let alone whether he played. And yet, the handwriting, the paper, it didn't look like a joke. He placed the letter on the table, sat down, and stared at it for a long while. Midnight. The bridge. The words echoed in his mind until his eyelids grew heavy. When he finally fell asleep, the violin rested beside him, and outside, the rain softened into a whisper. The morning crept in slowly, soft and gray. The kind of dawn that doesn't really shine, it just exists, like the world is still too tired to start again. Samuel opened his eyes. He didn't remember falling asleep. The rain had stopped hours ago, but The silence left behind was louder. He turned to the corner of the room. The violin case still lay there, half open, like a secret waiting to be found. Inside, the old violin rested, its strings dull, its wood dry, as if it hadn't sung in years. He sat up, rubbed his face, and whispered, "Not today, not again." But something, maybe that faint echo from last night, pulled him closer. He reached out, hesitated, then opened the case completely. The smell of old wood filled the air, warm and heavy. The kind of scent that carried memories, some soft, some sharp, like glass. Samuel picked up the violin. It felt lighter than before. He placed it beneath his chin, closed his eyes, and drew the bow across the strings. A single note. Broken, soft, but alive. He tried again and again, each sound trembling between beauty and collapse. Outside, the city was waking up. Cars, voices, doors, the heartbeat of another ordinary day. But in that small room, time stood still. And then, a knock. 3 sharp knocks. Samuel froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. He lowered the violin, walked to the door, and opened it just enough to see a man, tall, wearing a dark coat. The man's eyes were steady, searching. He spoke quietly. "Mr. Samuel Ward?" Samuel nodded. The man handed him a small envelope, yellowed, sealed with dark red wax. "This is for you," he said. Before Samuel could ask, the man turned away, his footsteps fading down the stairwell. Samuel looked at the envelope. No name, no address, just a symbol, a small bridge drawn in ink. He sat down slowly, the letter trembling in his hands. "A bridge," he whispered, "just like the dream." He broke the seal. Inside, a letter. The handwriting elegant, the ink slightly faded. "If you wish to understand why the violin sang last night, come to the bridge at midnight. Bring nothing except the music." Samuel stared at the words. His heart began to race. He looked at the violin, then at the window, then at the letter again. "Who are you?" he murmured. "And how do you know about the song?" The air felt heavier now. The clouds outside were gathering again, a promise of another storm. He stood up, placed the violin back in its case, but didn't close it. He whispered to himself, half afraid, half certain, "Tonight, I'll go." Night came quietly. The rain had started again, gentle, almost hesitant. The city lights shimmered through the mist, each droplet catching a piece of gold before vanishing. Samuel walked alone through the empty streets. The violin case hung by his side. Each step echoed softly, a rhythm between fear and curiosity. He reached the old bridge just before midnight. The water below moved slowly, black, heavy, endless. The wind carried a faint hum, like someone whispering through the strings of time itself. He stopped in the middle of the bridge. No one there. Only the dim yellow of the streetlights and the sigh of the river below. Samuel opened the case. The violin looked different now, as if it had been waiting for this moment too. He lifted it gently, placed it beneath his chin, and let the bow hover above the strings. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. Even the rain seemed to hold its breath. Then he played. One note, then another. The sound drifted across the bridge, soft and trembling, but full of life. The music carried into the fog, curling between the lamps and the wind like something alive, searching for a memory. And then a voice, quiet. Behind him, Samuel. He turned. Through the mist, a figure appeared. The same man from the morning, the one with the dark coat. But his face looked different now, softer, almost sad. You played it, the man said. The song. Samuel lowered the violin. His voice trembled. Who are you? The man smiled faintly. Someone who once wrote that melody. Samuel blinked. But that can't be. That song, it came to me in a dream. The man stepped closer. Dreams remember things our hearts forget. He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, an old photograph. Two young men stood on that same bridge. One of them was Samuel. The other, the man in front of him. Samuel's breath caught. I don't remember this. You did, the man whispered. Once, before the silence, before the years took it away. The violin trembled in Samuel's hands. He looked down at it, and in that moment, a flood of memories came rushing back. The nights they had played together, the song they had written, the promise they had made to never let the music die. Tears blurred his vision. He whispered, "How long have I been gone?" The man smiled, his form beginning to fade into the mist. Long enough for the bridge to forget your name, but not your song. Samuel reached out, but his hand met only air. The man's voice echoed faintly, carried by the wind. Play it once more, Samuel. Let the bridge remember. And so he did. The melody rose, gentle at first, then fuller, stronger. The sound filled the night, pouring over the river into the city beyond. It was sorrow. It was memory. It was forgiveness. And when the final note faded, the bridge stood silent again. But something had changed. The mist cleared a little. The rain eased. And for the first time in years, Samuel smiled. He looked at the violin and whispered, "Welcome back, old friend." The city began to breathe again, and the night finally rested. End of episode 1, The Violin on the Bridge. And that was the story for tonight. The rain will stop soon, but maybe the echoes will stay in the quiet part of your mind where music never ends. Until next time, good night.